Good evening. My name's Jo Brett. I'm the CEO and an occupational therapist at Starjumps Children's Centre, and I'm delighted to welcome you to join us for an introduction to two online workshops that Sarah Weller, who's going to introduce herself, is going to outline for you. So, Sarah, would you like to talk to us about the workshops that you're going to be presenting?
Yes, hello. I'm the founder of the Well Away, which is a family relationship and parenting coaching practice. And I've been working with Jo and alongside Star Jumps for a number of years now. And I'm really happy to be presenting a series of two workshops on understanding PDA. And the reason why we wanted to do this is because I think we probably both agree, Jo, don't we, that PDA is so misunderstood. A lot of parents who I work with get very, very downhearted and disillusioned when schools don't see the same behaviours as they do, and the parents are blamed for poor parenting, which is very, very disruptive to adult self-esteem and confidence. So I feel very strongly about moving away from this idea of a parenting prescription for a particular neurology, and how I work with parents is quite bespokely. So it's very much about understanding everybody's individual needs and everybody's strengths, and how we can use those strengths to understand each other more and strengthen attachment and relationship. So my rationale is very much about it's not working on behaviours, it's supporting relationship and nervous systems, so that we can identify the underlying sources at a particular child that's fueling those challenges for that particular child. I don't even really like Dr. Ross Green. I know he's a sort of famous guru on neurodivergency, but I don't even like his terminology about identifying missing skills either, because it's the language of something's missing. So I think I'm very much more about, appreciating differences, but using strengths for children and young people to thrive. I do, however, love Dr. Luke Bearden's analogy of, or sort of little equation about autism, is that he says autism plus environment equals outcome. And what I do is very much help parents look at the environment. Is their child thriving in the environment or not thriving in the environment? Is at home or school or anywhere else, a care setting, for example. So the first workshop is about understanding PDA, because it's really fundamental that we understand the differences between classic autism and PDA, because they're very, very different. And each neurology needs different things. So the first bit of the workshop is understanding the differences between classic autism and PDA. And then we sort of build up in three sections, the workshops in three sections, about how to help understand the PDA from a parent perspective. Then we move through to from an educator's perspective. So I'm really, really keen for this workshop to be seen by teachers and support staff particularly. And then we move through to seeing PDA through a young person's perspective. We're really putting ourselves in our children's shoes. Looking at the particular needs that's driving PDA, and sort of a little bit about starting to think what sort of approach is appropriate, and as I say, enables a young person to thrive. So part 2 is a much deeper dive into building a scaffolding around PDA. Now, I know this, I've talked about we can't have a prescription, but it's all about the things that I have learnt about and discovered and worked alongside clients and actually witnessed what works. So I have some key components about that, building a scaffolding around PDA, and that's very much about building trust, strengthening relationship, building
Sarah,
attachment.
sorry to interrupt you. Some people are saying it sounds a bit echoey, so I don't know if you do want to try with your headset again to see if that...
It's really echoey my end, and I couldn't work out how to change it.
I'll take myself out and see if that improves things, okay?
Is that any better? Oh, yes. It's immediately better. Oh, Joe. I will just carry on and then we'll see if Joe comes back in. I've lost my thread now. What was I saying? Yes, it's very much about looking at foundations. So ways to strengthen relationships, ways to build attachment, looking at the particular triggers for PDA, looking at the type of nervous system and how we can respond to soothing that nervous system. It's changing the ways we communicate as well. So it's coming away from lots of sort of language that will increase anxiety and looking at language that will decrease anxiety. And obviously the big one is looking at ways that we can co-regulate. So because anybody on the autism spectrum or with PDA has challenges with regulating their nervous system. So they're looking to an adult to be the replication of their nervous system to be able to soothe through co-regulation. It's also looking at the way masking impacts the nervous system as well, because what we know about PDA is that why the behaviours seem so different in different environments. So, your child may be masking at school and then struggling at home, is that often masking can eventually lead to burnout, which is why it's so important for everybody involved with the young person or your child completely understands PDA and how to stop that nervous dysregulation happening so often and amplifying. So has anyone got any questions? Joe, has anyone got any questions? Do you know?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So I've done these workshops before, and the feedback very much from we didn't do part 2 before, and the feedback from part 1 was very much that a lot of parents do know about PDA and how it presents, and what people were looking for is sort of what to do. So the first one is a nice little sort of refresher, but I'm particularly keen for the first one that teachers and support workers and support assistants and perhaps even grandparents and relatives will come on to get a deeper understanding. But it's the second one that really is the sort of helping you with some ideas about how you can strengthen relationship and really help everybody thrive, because the feedback I get from the families I work with that PDA can be very impactful on the whole family, particularly on siblings as well. Siblings, it's a great, that probably part one might be nice for siblings as well to attend if they're sort of teenagers. That would be nice, so that they can get more of an understanding about what's going on for their brother or sister. So please ask questions. Happy to answer them.
I don't know if you can hear me better now, Sarah. Does that work
Yes.
better? Oh, good.
Yes.
Is the workshop suitable for the parent or educator of any age child? That was a question.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is. I
To
think
up to what sort of age would you?
I would even say the approaches I'm going to talk about are suitable for adults as well.
Mm.
I don't think there's ever an age and to not trying to understand someone, is there really? You know, you might suspect that maybe your partner might have PDA.
Yes. I think, yeah, some. You'll also be talking about some of the difficulties children with, or adolescents, adults with PDA can experience in terms of their sensory environments and management of their lives, which touches on the work that we do as occupational therapists as well. And I will be supporting Sarah and able to answer questions on that as well in the workshops.
It's very, very common that because the nervous system is so hypervigilant that there are sensory challenges and sensory differences. And a lot of the approach that I take to co-regulation is creating sensory safety first, before we're even trying to address or a behaviour or change something. It's always about addressing sensory safety.
I'm going to post some links to Eventbrite. I'm posting the first one, which is for the Understanding PDA workshop, which will be on the 4th of October at 7:30 to 9:30. And as part of it, Sarah produces a workbook and it is recorded for later viewing as well. We ran this workshop last year and it was attended by over 60. I think we had over 60 people, and we had really great feedback from that. And as a health professional myself, I know that colleagues of mine and I found it very valuable for our work and our understanding too. So I would, certainly say for health professionals and teachers, anyone who's looking to support a child with PDA, it is really very valuable learning. And then for those that may have attended last year and would like to attend the second workshop, that will be building on the first one that you did last year as well, and the one in October.
And also, I think extended family, the first one would be really good for extended family, because again, the feedback I get from families is that it's not often understood what a parent's trying to do when they are trying to modifying a traditional approach to parenting. It's not really understood, particularly if a grandparent is very much in the line of traditional parenting. So that can cause quite some family fractions as well. So
yes, and I think when changes can be made to support a child with PDA, the transformation, can be absolutely incredible and quite quick. Would you say, Sarah? I mean, in my experience, I've seen such beautiful things unfolding when the right environment, the right understanding is around the child.
Exactly, and I'm working very closely with schools now as well, to create a very sort of bespoke approach to an individual child with PDA. I'm working at the moment with a family, and this lovely young girl. She's got a diagnosis of autism, ADHD, and PDA profile, and dyslexia. The school, and sensory processing. And the school emailed me at the beginning of term to say the head teacher has decided that she can't wear a hoodie anymore. She's got to wear school uniform. And as a result, I was able to go back to the head and explain what autism found difficult about school uniform, what PDA found difficult, what ADHD found difficult, and that we can't send a dysregulated child into school because of a piece of clothing. And the way I broke it down, the head came back to me and said, "Oh, yeah, okay, we're okay. We'll stick with the hoodie." So, it's just like creating that sort of baseline of understanding that it's not just simply a question of a child being defiant, or, and that's the trouble, that often PDA can present as really, really defiant, and so there are behavioural management strategies put in place, which obviously increase the anxiety even more. So it's helping people understand that this is an anxiety-driven sort of, a brain that needs co-regulation, it needs trust building, it needs quiet voice, it needs, a lot of really lovely relationship skills.
Yes, very, very true. We're also, for booking both workshops, there is a discount. And if you email us at info@starjumps.com, we can send you all the links. I've tried to post some here, but it might be easier to just email us at info@, or I'll post them later on Facebook and Instagram. So
the links are also on my website. The Eventbrite links on my website too.
Lovely. I don't know if anyone, before we end this evening's overview of the workshops, if anyone has any questions, we can stay on for a couple more minutes. I know Sarah's got to go off and do some more sessions this evening, but got a couple more minutes. If anyone's got a question about PDA generally or about the workshops, probably got about a minute or so left. We can answer a question. With the strengthening workshops, strengthening relationships. It's a long day. It's been with me today. I'll try and talk properly. Strengthening relationships workshop. Would you say that that's not so much for wider family and siblings, or might it be suitable for some wider family?
I think it would be suitable for wider family, because it would be really nice to get consistency with language and consistency with the particular approaches that I'm going to be recommending. Yes, for sure. Probably not so much. Well, actually, no. I think it's really important that everybody is working together, because otherwise it can be very, very confusing for a child, and very, very dysregulating if there's not the consistency.
I have a question, and I don't know if you've got enough time to answer it now, but you might want to make a start on it. Do you have any tips for supporting a child with PDA when they have to stay away from home, when they're not in their home environment? I presume that's the question. It's quite a big question.
When they're not in their home environment,
yes.
I'm not sure whether that means in another home or school.
It's not clear from the question. I don't know if the person that's posed the question can clarify that. So the actual question, any tips on a child coping with staying away from home, please? So I don't, that sounds, oh, like a hotel. Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
So it depends. It depends on the child, because some children with PDA thrive on novelty. So they could absolutely be up for it, and probably might really surprise you and be really immersing themselves in it. And I've seen that happen lots of times because it's novel. And other times it may be there's just the thing that is, everything is different. Room's different, the size of the room's different. It depends how much of a sensory profile that child has. Different food, different noise levels, etc., etc. So it would all depend, I think. There's no one thing or another, and that's what I mean. It's so bespoke. If it's sensory, then it's more difficult, and there would have to be quite a lot of sort of sensory diet things put in while they're there to help. But yeah, if it's the child that is sort of one of the, it thrives on different, and it's exciting and it's novel, they may absolutely be fine.
Yeah.
So I'm really sorry I can't. And this is what these workshops are about, really, is that you can't just say, do this one thing and that will be okay. It really is. I'm sort of trying to understand the bespoke needs of that your particular child.
Yes. There are lots of tools that you discuss and ways of doing things that I think people can pull out what is relevant to their child. And we had a comment, sensory is an issue, and we can touch on that as well. At the end of the workshops, there's time for questions as well. So
and also I think with anxiety, it's knowing that gut thing about whether to sort of slightly push and try, or that will cause more dysregulation. So it's a really tough call. So often one of the things I advise is that you always have a plan B, always a plan B, always a get out, always a if it's too much. I think that's really important. I know a lot of the books say do a lot of pre-planning and setting up and setting of scenarios and talking about it, but actually that can backfire massively, because that can be really anxiety producing even more. So sometimes spontaneity can be better than a lot of pre-planning. It just depends on what you feel that your child needs and responds to.
And if you understand your child's sensory needs, as you understand more about sensory regulation, you'll get to know more about the sorts of activities or strategies or pieces of equipment. For example, weighted blankets are quite well known as being quite calming and helping for going to sleep and regulating things like that can really support in a different environment.
The one thing I also just remembered that can be really helpful when they go away is to have a little backpack of very familiar things. So little things from their room, or a favorite toy, a favorite smell, just again a sort of a little sensory set kit that's very familiar and soothing. That can really help, and something of yours as well can really help. So a scarf or whatever is appropriate, that can help when you go away.
Yeah, well, I think we've run out of time for this evening, but do email us at info@starjumps.com if you'd like to find out more. There's more on Eventbrite about the content of the courses. And if you have any questions that you want to pose to us before we start, we can always put those into our think tank about the audience that we're going to be talking to. So thank you so much, Sarah, for coming to introduce the workshops. I'm really looking forward to them, and I know lots of the members of our Star Jumps team are looking forward to joining you as
Good.
well.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, everyone who's
Okay.
come along and watched. Have a good rest of Monday evening, and hopefully we'll see you either on the 4th of October or the 8th of November, or both. And yes, thank you again for joining us. Good night.
Yeah. Good night. Thank you.